Tell us about yourself, sir.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Craig Stewart, and I'm a writer and author.
Okay.
I published my first book called Words Never Spoken. I'm originally from here, from Baltimore, and I moved away for college, Hampton University, and then from there I moved to Atlanta, and so most of the story takes place in Atlanta, but part of it takes place here. Some of it is in D.C., some is Virginia.
Okay.
And the story ends in L.A. That's where I was when I wrote the book.
Yeah, Craig is no stranger to the Style Chronicles. He is, this is the second time here on the show.
Oh, and so the voice you're hearing now is
yeah.
Style. He's back in the building.
Yeah. He is no longer a virgin to the Style Chronicles. So,
I've been a virgin to many things in a very long time.
Like some of our guests that we've had on the show have been virgins. Like Raven's a virgin.
Hi.
Yeah. Welcome.
Hi, I'm a virgin.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. But yeah, so that's pretty much how we work here. That's how we do things. But I'm so glad, Craig, to have you back on the show because I read your book.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very interesting, to say the least.
Okay.
I got some kicks and giggles and like it was a good read. I got through it pretty quickly because that's how I am. I love to read books. I like to physically hold a book and read it, and versus a lot of people read stuff on their tablets and read. I don't know. I like a good, nice book and get my read on. So it was very.
You're so old school.
I'm sorry. That's just I can't help it. That's how I am. I like to actually physically hold a book and read it. Versus I don't know. I can't do it all that. But it was interesting to see how the transitions throughout the book from your childhood and some things I could relate. When you're speaking on your parents and them separating and things of that sort, and then moving on with their lives, and some of the struggles you had with college, and then from college trying to figure out where you want to go afterwards. And it's like when I was reading, it was what I was going through at that moment, with about to finish college and graduating and figure out what's next for me, and trying to go through these trials and tribulations and even also making mistakes, like going through jobs is like, that's not for me, but I need to pay my bills and I need to have a roof over my head, but that's not really where I want to be. And then some way that you find a loophole and get out of it, and then you move on to something else and you get to your passion.
Yeah.
But then you still come back, when you have your passion, it's like, I still need a job to pay my bills. So it's like having, trying to have that balance of being able to do both. And some people can, some people can't. And some people try to go out on faith. Which I when I was reading the book, I felt that you did that, and you were trying to do that, and you were trying to be fully fulfilled. And I think the determinant was you weren't completely fulfilled, so you found an alternative, which was a sexual thing, and try to bring it to make it complete, make you complete as a whole. So I can relate in some form or fashion. I'm just going to say that in some form or fashion, I can relate. So I was like, wow. Interesting. Okay.
So you're just gonna
now we gotta read the book.
Yeah. So I'm making y'all want to. Yeah, you have to read the book because it was very. It was some, and not the whole storyline was completely me, but I could relate to some of the things in the book because I either went through it, or was currently going through it, and in some form or fashion still going through it.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, because we all have goals. Well, not we all have goals and inspirations, but if you really want to be a well-rounded and successful individual, you have to have goals and dreams and aspirations in life. But at the same time, sometimes goals and aspirations, you can't hug them at night. Mm-hmm. You can't. They can't lay beside you at night. They don't comfort you at night. So sometimes you defer to something that keeps you warm.
I'll kind of give a little bit of it, but for me, I always knew what my passions were. I always knew that I wanted to write. It began with writing music, and then from there it turned into writing stage plays, and then greeting cards, and then some television stuff, and then the last thing was this book. Mm-hmm. But what I didn't anticipate was the route to getting to it, to be able to make a living at it. So, like you were saying a moment ago, I had to do certain jobs. I had a lot of corporate jobs that I didn't like. they were great jobs. One was Coca-Cola, one was Hewlett-Packard, one was IBM, but they just weren't jobs that I was fulfilled with. And so I took the leap. And when I look back now, I realized that I took risks that I didn't have to take. I took bigger risks. And in some ways, I made the journey harder for myself than it had to be. But while going through all of that, trying to pursue the passion, I was coming to terms with being gay. And so there were feelings and things that were bottled up that I had been holding on to for years, from the time that I was a teenager all the way through high school to college, trying to suppress these feelings. And at some point, it has to explode. It has to come out at some point.
Right.
And so for me, it was when I moved to Atlanta and I was there, and it was just in an unhealthy way, because at some point it was poor decisions, because I was suffering through a depression, if you will, because I was financially strapped, I was professionally backed into a wall. It was just so many things like that. And so it was a really dark time, but it allowed me to understand, because I was sitting in such a space where I had no choice but to face my own reality. And so that was what I tried to do with the book, and tried to share that with the reader.
Do you feel like you were, when you decided to move away from Baltimore, did you feel like you were trying to run away from your troubles and problems?
No. I've been asked that before, but no. When I moved away, it initially it was for college.
Okay.
And right after that, I moved to Atlanta to write music, because this was 1998, and so music was huge at that time. LaFace Records was there, Dallas Austin Recording Projects was there, So Def, Jermaine Dupri. So Atlanta was the place for music. And so I moved to Atlanta to do that. But while trying to pursue the songwriting career, again, I was wrestling with this whole thing of being gay. And so the first few relationships or dating experiences, if you will, I was juggling those, and it was just transitioning from this world where you're moving from this straight world over to this new world that I was unfamiliar with and had to get acclimated to, and just the differences from dating women to dating men, and just all of those different disparities. So it was all of those things. So it was a really, really difficult time. I didn't know anybody in Atlanta, so I didn't have friends there that I could really kind of talk to about it. So it was really, really frustrating. It was just a really, really frustrating time for me. And so eventually I made friends. I came out, obviously, and I started talking to people about it, and I started making healthier choices. But I wanted to write more so about the choices that we sometimes make before we start opening up to people about this quote-unquote dark secret, and that is being gay.
Do you think it's still a dark secret now in 2014?
I do.
You do?
For some people, and it also, geography plays a big part in it. Atlanta is the South, but Atlanta has become like this gay mecca. There are more gay people in Atlanta than any other city in the country, including San Francisco. So it's become like this gay mecca. So you see on television, you see all these reality shows, you see guys walking around with heels and purses. That is not the norm, but you see that a lot, because Atlanta
They think that's the norm.
They think that's the norm. And so Atlanta has become this place where you have people moving from Chicago and the Carolinas and wherever they're moving from, and they're migrating to Atlanta. And so on one hand, it's a little more acceptable there because the people who are from Atlanta and live in Atlanta, they've come to expect it. They know this is what it is in Atlanta. But then when you go to different places, different cities, whether you're in Detroit or some other place in the Midwest, it's not as acceptable. And you have people who are in states like Alabama who are still struggling, or Mississippi, that are still living this dark secret. But I know for me, and for many, there comes a point where you acknowledge to yourself that you're gay. And for me, I remember, I was thinking about this the other day. I remember coming home, I think I was in middle school. I was either in 8th grade or I was in the 9th grade. But I remember coming home, and I remember looking at myself in the mirror, and I said out loud, I'm gay. And it was one of those things that I didn't act on for years, because I didn't actually act on it until I was 22, when I actually moved to Atlanta after college. But in saying that to myself, it broke my heart just a little bit, just to admit that. And just to give you a metaphor, like when the heart breaks, it bleeds. And I carried that bleeding heart for many years. I carried it into many friendships, many of the relationships that I ultimately had, and it poisoned some of those relationships. And that heart continues to bleed until you cure it, until you affirm yourself and acknowledge for yourself, give yourself permission to be who you are. But I think it becomes really, really difficult for black men or men of color. But I'm speaking specifically about black men, but because we've been looking for permission or affirmation from the black church, the black family, and the black community. So there's a level of shame that we carry, and we carry that into each of our relationships, and even in some of our friendships, the straight ones, the friendships that we have with straight people and the friendships that we have with gay people. With respect to the straight friends that we have, for me, it caused me to isolate myself from some of them. It pushed them away because there was this new life, this new secret that I had that I wasn't ready to share with them. So I tried to impart all of that through my story in the book, and a lot of the emails that I get are from people who can identify with that, but not just that, but also with the anonymous sex that seems to be commonplace within the community. So I talk about all those things, and so that's why I call the book Words Never Spoken, because it's things that we don't typically talk about.
True. Very much so. Oh, and you know, some people are just afraid to.
Right.
And even with some people want to, but they want to find the right person that won't. You know, people talk. People run their mouths, especially if you get in an altercation with friends. A lot of times they want to use what you said to them against you. I've been through that before, and it's so you get to a point in life where it's like, who can you really trust with your personal business? So
I mean, one of the things that I've also wanted to bring out too in the book is just how we're so unkind to each other. We're so mean
very much
to each other, and the only way that I can really rationalize it is, I know when I first moved to Atlanta, I was writing for a theater company, and so of course with the theater company, you have a lot of gay guys that are in the theater company, and so I made it my business to stay away from all the gay guys, but because like what really it boils down to is you hate in them what you hated in yourself. You know, and it was that whole idea of femininity and just that whole thing. And so and it really is just internalized homophobia, and that's one of the things, that's the root of what we need to get to really get to a point where we really embrace and love ourselves and accept ourselves and stop waiting for people to accept us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the book. I thought it was entertaining. I thought it hit home on some things that I had either dealt with or was dealing with. Some of the experience, I know when you said in your book you came out at 22, I pretty much, that's around the time I did or started to act on things at that age. So I was a late bloomer, as they say.
Yeah, me too. That's what I say.
Yeah. So a lot of it I, could familiarize myself with and see. I was like, wow, I remember, I dealt with some of this, I dealt with some of that, and I haven't dealt with a whole lot of the relationship part of it that you had put in there, but some of it I could speak on just from friends and other people that I knew or may have dealt with similar situations. I was like, wow, I've been, a friend of mine dealing with this and that. And so it was very relatable. That's the word that I want to say for the book. Very relatable. And I felt like you didn't pull no punches. Like you kept it straight, no chaser, so to speak. But it was done in a very sophisticated, classy way, so to speak, for the young people to be intrigued, but the older people to accept what you've been through, because they have been through the same thing, and still been able to sprinkle a little bit of extra spices to bring that entertainment perspective of it. So I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Really did. I did, because as you know, I was like texting you periodically, letting you know what week I was on, and I'm almost done.
People do that. People who know me do that, and people who don't know me, they end up emailing, or they reach out through Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or somewhere like that. But I'm humbled by it. Like I can never get used to that. Yeah. And for me, thank you is the biggest, the highest compliment that somebody can pay me for that. So I mean, a lot of times I look at the emails and it brings tears to my eyes, because there was a point that I really didn't know if I was going to release it, because I was so transparent, right? Because I was so honest. But what I've learned now since the book has been out is that it's not just my story. It really is a universal story, and not just gay people. Right. I've had a lot of women who emailed me to say that they could relate to the story as well.
Well, that's good.
So yeah, I mean, because I also write about my journey as an entrepreneur, so
Yeah.
it's not just
It's not
the whole
just-
gay
right.
part is just the backdrop of it.
Right.
But
That's just a small percentage of who you
Yeah,
are, and
right.
I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. You know, with anybody they come across that may be gay, whether it be a female or male, that it's only a small percentage of who we are. It's not completely who we are. Like for me, I don't wear my sexuality on my sleeve. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. Like that's just me. I don't hide who I am. I've become comfortable in my own skin.
Right.
So you know, I don't have anything to hide when it comes to something like that. But you know, people make it seem like that's well, you know, you're interested in everybody. Every
Right.
dude you see, you're interested in them. Or some straight men think you're interested in them. I'm like, we have tastes just like y'all
Right,
do.
right.
So don't make it.
and it's
think-
always the ones that you never even look at. That
right.
think
It's like, dude, I don't even. What do you mean? I'm like, that's not even the case here. Like,
right.
calm down. Put on the brakes. It's okay. Jeez.
Yeah, but I have an event that's going to be on May 28th, and I want to invite everybody out. It's a reading. It's a reading and a signing. I'll read a piece from the book. We'll do a Q&A. We'll have there's a bar, but it's going to be on May 28th from 7 to 9. It's going to be at Creative Alliance here in
Creative
Baltimore.
Alliance. I know where it's
Yeah,
at. Patterson.
the information is on my website, which is craigthewriterstewart.com.
Cool.
But
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.